demonstrated. We showed it on television yesterday. It's a Chrysler Charger, but it has a 350 Chev motor stuck in the back with a Hewland gearbox and rear drive. Ralph Mossman was fourth fastest qualifier, then Don Grindley fifth, Trevor McLean going back through the order. There's an enormous variation between the quickest qualifier, who's Ian Algie at 1:59, to the slowest way at the back of the field, whose qualifying time was 1:34.7. An enormous variation.
Yes, really in this race you can only expect the race to be with the first 6 people, because the other competitors down the line are up to 30 seconds a lap slower, which are it is a sports sedan race, but a lot of people at the back are normal club competitors of various kinds. Like you get in the Benson Hedges, you get the Group A motor cars and the other 2-litre New Zealand assemble cars, which go a lot slower because they're not modified. And the same in sports sedans. The people at the front are the quick ones, and the ones at the back, there can be enormous disparity of speed.
See if we can get down a little closer to the grid and have a look at some of this machinery. Some of it is really very, very interesting. A lot of what the crowd comes to see. They love the big noise, the big bangers, the tin tops, and cars that to some extent they can relate to as similar to cars that they drive themselves, an outside body shape anyway.
The only similarity really is the roof line, the bonnet line and the boot line. The rest of it's all changed. They have flares, plastic windows, the doors are perspex, and there'll be an interesting thing here with Ian Algie on pole with 1 minute 5.9 and Trevor Crow at 1 minute 7.2. Trevor Crow will probably set a time in this race of about 1 minute 4, so he really should be the race leader, because he had problems in practice yesterday with his injection. It is a Starlet with a 3.5 Oldsmobile engine stretched out of 4.2 litres for his class racing in Oscar in the South Island, and runs injection, and he had problems yesterday.
Yes, the injectors were full of muck, which he says looked like welding slag from the fuel tank.
Yes, well, the car's been around a long time and sits in different places and different workshops, so anything can happen. And Trevor Crow, we should note, is from the South Island, and him and Don Grindley have both come up from the South Island from what we call Oscar racing down there to race at the Grand Prix meeting against all the other North Island sports sedans.
Well, these cars are the ones that everyone comes to see, is it not, Tony? The big grunters.
They come to see and hear. Let's talk to the man that I would certainly pick as the race favourite, Trevor Crow from the South Island. I think he's down on the grid with Graham Booth. Let's see if we can get a word with him.
Well, Trevor Crow, you've come to the North Island, covered in glory with everything you've done down south. Now, are you going to show these Northerners a thing or two?
You can never count your chickens, but I certainly hope so.
What sort of things do you reckon you'll be able to show them?
Well, we've got a good handling car. It brakes very well. Unfortunately, with the tailwind, we won't be able to run down the straight with them because we're over-revving. But we'll just wait and see what happens. We haven't run against these guys for a couple of years. And
you're having a few hassles earlier, weren't you, with fuel injection, we heard?
Yes, yesterday in practice we blocked up a couple of nozzles, but we've sorted that out and it's running pretty strong now.
Does this big, mean-looking Alfa Romeo with a huge V8 engine and on the grid alongside you intimidate you at all?
No, not really. I've run up against worse customers than him in the South Island, and we'll see what happens.
Trevor Crow from Christchurch, the Christchurch car dealer, the man that we are picking sitting in the commentary box here as the race favourite. His most consistent opposition, I would think, will come from Ian Algie in this Alfa you're looking at now. It looks like an Alfa or an Alfetta, but as Rich Cook said before, it's really only the roof line and the body line. It's a Chev 5-litre V8 in there.
Yes, the engine's sitting right beside the driver, and if anything should go wrong with the engine, the driver could end up with a bit of an imprint of some engine parts over him. It has got special shields to protect the driver in case of an engine blow-up, but it is a very specialised car. It is very, very quick. It will pull a very high top speed, and most of it is plastic and aluminium and fiberglass of all sorts. And Ian Algie sitting right in the back seat, and from the situation he is in, it's actually difficult to get a very good picture of the circuit, because he has to look over the engine as he goes round right-hand corners.
It's not very often you have the carburetor trumpets looking at you from inside the car.
The noise from the engine itself must be fairly deafening to the driver, and wouldn't be doing his eardrums a lot of good.
Now, we're not sure if they're going to give them a warm-up.
Yes, they will get a one-lap warm-up. It's a Grand Prix meeting, and Laurie Powell is standing in front of the grid now. He's the starter, and he controls when they go on to warm-up laps and when the start is. And Laurie Powell about to walk out of the way and probably send the way under one lap. He'll put his right hand up with a one finger in a minute. No, he's done his left hand. He's sending the way under one lap. Laurie Powell, if they were going to get 2 laps more up, he'd give you the victory signal.
Going through the qualifying order again, Ian Elgie in the Alfetta is first with a 159. Then Trevor Crow 172, but he had some problems. Next is Addis 172, Mossman 181, Grindley 181, McLean 194, Bajent 197, Homewood 110.2, and Short 110.6.
Actually, Bajent, who is in the BMW we're going to see in the Group A touring car races, qualified with Sport Sedans, but I don't think he'll be in this race because he wasn't entered in it. He was only just practicing with the Sport Sedans, so we won't see that Group A motor car until later on.
I think it's out there, isn't it?
I can't see the car myself out there at the moment, but just for you viewers at home, the warm-up lap is basically, as it sounds, is just for that sort of thing. The big cars that we're looking at now have got very, very big cast iron braking assemblies, and in order to make the cars safe to complete their racing very early on, they must bring up everything up to nice temperature. So it's easy to sit in the pits and just warm an engine up, but they're trying to warm all the components of the car.
Especially the gearbox and the diff.
Of course, this is being heralded as a bit of a grudge match because we've got the South Island boys, Trevor Crow and Don Grindley. Now that's in the car on the screen now, the little Toyota with the aluminium V8 engine. Now this fellow obviously has a free reign in the South Island almost. He's king of them all down there. And the blokes up here in North Island run a thing called the Sport Sedan Series, which is different than the Oscar Series in the South Island. So there's very strong rivalry between, and I think there'll be a few of these North Island boys, like the Algie brothers, itching to have a go, show Trevor Crow just what Sport Sedans is all about in the North Island.
Well, Trevor Crow has been in his car for years. It's been winning for about 4 years now and has a tremendous amount of racing and rally experience as a driver, and he knows his car very well. And I think that his driving and car preparation experience should be superior to that of Ian Algie, because Ian Algie hasn't raced anywhere near as many races as Trevor Crow with this kind of power.
Actually, I think that's a good point, Rich. It's a point worth bringing up because of all the people who can pedal in this country, regardless of car, Trevor Crow would have to be in your top 5.
Yes, he certainly would be. The only problem Trevor Crow will have today is that it will be reliability, because they've got a tailwind. He's going to be pulling more revs than he wanted to down the back straight. His 3.5 litre aluminium Oldsmobile engine is stretched to 4.2 litres, and the reliability of that engine could be in question today. Although in the last few meetings it's been very good, but before that he's had a lot of problems in the South Island.
Yeah, he only likes to use 7,500 revs. He said yesterday he was getting it to 8.2 at the back
Well,
straight.
a tailwind isn't going to help Trevor Crow. It'll help Ian Algie, and there's half a minute to go. Laurie Powell, the starter, standing in the middle of the grid. Further down the grid in third place you can see the
Graham
Addis is a sort of replica Charger, which once again has only got a roofline that's the same. And the other South Island on the grid is the yellow car, the Mazda RX-7 of Don Grindley. On the starting board now.
Have a look for Don Grindley off the start line. That's a 13B Stage 3 Mazda rotary motor running about 17 or 18 pounds.
He's moved up. Laurie Powell doesn't like that. This is a North Island starter, not a South Island starter, Don Grindley. They're going to push him back.
Watch for the Charger in the middle, making a run up the middle.
Yes, Laurie Powell, he's a very good starter. He's made him go back in the South Island. Don Grindley could have got away with that, but not a Puke here. They're making him go back. No funny business with Laurie Powell.
Running about 17 or 18 pounds.
He's moved up. Laurie Powell doesn't like that. This is a North Island starter, not a South Island starter, Don Grindley. They're going to push him back.
Watch for the Charger in the middle, making a run up the middle.
Yes, Laurie Powell, he's a very good starter. He's made him go back in the South Island. Don Grindley could have got away with that, but not a Puke here. They're making him go back. No funny business with Laurie Powell. Yes, Laurie's got them in charge, and those marshals will be off there quickly, and Laurie Powell won't muck around the start. The race is going to start very quickly indeed.
Graham Addis being pushed back as well. Ready for a start this time. We'll wait for the flag to drop. Laurie Powell drops the flag. Away into the first corner. The thundering roar of the big Sedans. Trevor Crow. Oh, nice racing. Trevor Crow, Ian Algie, Graham Addis. Good start from Don Grindley up there in 4th place. Fighting for 4th place. Now he's lost it.
Graham Addis obviously suffering a lot of wheel spin at the start where these big cars can't get their car to the ground effectively off the line, but once they get onto the back straight. Let's watch the legs of these big grundles.
Yes, Trevor Crow going very quick down the back straight, but the wind's going to be a problem, and Ian Algie may challenge him for the lead, and he's pulling out beside him to take the lead, and there's also a small bit of rain on the circuit, as we can see. So I think this is where Trevor Crow's driving experience in a smaller car will give him an advantage over the outfitter, especially if it's getting damp around the front straight. They're on the back straight now. There may be no rain there, but when they get on the front straight, they're going to get a bit of a fright.
Reg has had Formula 5000 experience. There's Don Brindley having a bit of trouble getting off the turn there, but Reg has had 5000 experience, and he'll know, like I'm telling you, that there's nothing worse than something like a Formula 5000 car on slicks in the rain.
This is a shame for Don Brindley at Wigram. He never even got off the start line because of his oil filter, and now he's out of the race. And Trevor Crow still on the lead rail, and the Porsche has gone off.
That's the rain we're going to tell you is the cause of this. It's made the top of the hill very slippery when mixed with the oil. Let's watch these lead cars and see how they cope with it. We've already lost 2 of our sports sedans.
Well, I think that Escort probably spun and the Porsche went into him by the looks of it. And as we say, it could get tricky. This is where Trevor Crow's marvellous driving experience as a rally driver and a race driver will help him.
The Escort that went off there is Bruce Mannon. That's a 2-litre turbo Escort.
Now, this is where the experience of the Trevor Crow ability to control throttle with a slick tyre will show. He's got a very, very slippery track. He knows it's a little bit wet in places, but a little bit drier in others. And he'll feather the power on around. Now, Addis is actually having a harder time of getting around those turns.
Yeah, Trevor Crow's got a smaller engine running smaller tyres, so on a wet circuit won't be quite as slippery. But Ian Algie is going very well to stay in second position and stay with Trevor Crow.
That was Barry Algie, his brother, just off at Castrol.
Well, these two are certainly making a race for it. They don't seem to worry about the rain. I don't think it's actually enough that we can say it's anything more than a damp track at this point. No, yes. Certainly no question about stopping the rain tyres or anything like that.
No, it'll be a damp circuit around where they're at now, and they'll just be careful. Trevor Crow taking it cautiously. Ian Algie closing in with...
Graham Addis still third.
Yes, Graham Addis closing right in there on Ian Algie. And he's about to pull out and pass him down the back straight, so maybe there's something wrong with Ian Algie's car.
This is a good effort by the Addis Crane's car, because technically I would have thought the rain would help the Trevor Crow's car a little more and the Algie car, but there's Addis having a go for second place.
Yes.
Up the inside.
Graham Addis,
braking move.
Brilliant braking manoeuvre. He's going to hold up Ian Algie now because he's not as quick out of the corners, and this will allow Trevor Crow to probably get a bit of a lead up, because as we saw before, Graham Addis's car not quite as quick in terms of putting the power down.
Well, as I said earlier, sports sedans will be looking out. There's a lot of smoke coming from the rear of Trevor Crow's car.
He's being an overboard engine. He may be having problems with his head gaskets, and even though we've got a South Islander in the lead now with 2 North Islanders behind him, you may end up with a North Islander winning the race because of Trevor Crow's reliability problems in the engine.
Very pertinent comment about...
The sports sedan boys are really going to be wanting this victory. They've got this thing about open saloon cars are not as good as their favourite North Island cars, so Graham Addis will put his foot right down now, trying to get on the back of Trevor Crow.
Yeah, Trevor Crow, I think, has got a problem with the engine, and he will try to get as much lead as he can, so that if something's going wrong near the end of this race, which is 8 laps long, if he has a problem at the end, the 2 North Islanders are not able to close in and pass him.
Pertinent comment, I think, about Graham Addis perhaps slowing down Ian Algie. The gap now that Trevor Crow's managed to pull out is quite substantial. Trevor Crow is Graham Addis from Ian Algie.
Yeah,
that's the
Trevor
order.
Crow dropping smoke everywhere, and Graham Addis in trouble there. He's missed a gear. Ian Algie's going to try and get past him. Algie, I think, may have got in front of... Yes, he has. Ian Algie in second place, and he should be able to now close in on Trevor Crow, that he's no longer probably being held up by Graham Addis.
Algie gave a little bump to the rear of the Graham Addis car as he came out of that turn, but no damage appears to be done.
These cars will be lapping in about 1 minute 5, 1 minute to 1 minute 8 seconds, so they'll be 3 to 4 seconds a lap slower than what the bikes were in the previous races we saw. Ian Algie tried very hard there, and also Graham Addis pushing his way through the traffic. Right, Graham Addis very determined. The car doesn't handle quite as well as Algie's.
This is the thing about lapping cars. You must take the opportunity that's there, and you see it in all the classes of cars. If there's a hole there and you believe you've got a safe chance to get through, you take it. But sometimes you just got to actually force a bit of room, and it can be tricky.
Trevor Crow, the South Islander, in the lead, not making any mistakes, calling the tunes of the race. And the scrap for the race is really second place between Ian Algie.
Very nice lines he uses, of course. He hasn't got the pressure on him that we've come to used to expect in the South Island.
Yes,
but
Ian Algie in second place in the red Alfetta.
hand out the window there was Dave James.
And Graham Addison is Charger, 3rd place. And as we said before, when the car's on the grid, there's 30 seconds a lap difference between these cars in lap time. Passing slower lap cars.
There must have been an accident on the hill by the look of it. We've had a lot of people. Yes, in fact, it's a little escort has gone to the outside of the track, but doesn't appear to be any. No, the driver is safe and sound, so that's the main thing.
Ralph Mossman is Viva, number 4, who's done on 4th position on the grid. Number 98 is doing quite well. Trevor holding 4th place.
Trevor Crow getting balked just a little by the traffic there, having some difficulty getting through. Graham Addis the same.
Puke is all excitement today, and the cars are having a lot of trouble staying on that black bit of tar seal.
No, Ian Algie's got some engine problems by the look as well.
Yes, he is. And it is engine problems. There's a lot of smoke coming out the back. I don't think it's brakes or tyres. Seems to be holding the speed down the back straight all right.
Seems to be just at the initial stages getting out of corners.
Yeah, he may be having some form of oil surge with his dry sump tank or some other problem like that, and all getting on to exhaust and creating all the smoke. But Trevor Crow still in the lead from Ian Algie. And Ralph Mossman coming right up behind Graham Addison. In fact, Ralph Mossman has come into 3rd place now, taking the 3rd off Graham Addison, which is a credit to Ralph Mossman. Not many people would have rated him before this race, and here he has worked his way up to 3rd place in his home-built Viva with his 6-litre engine. Here's Ian Algie out. It may not be engined. It could look. Yes, it's coming right from the front. Yes. All right.
Well, that's a bad place to park a car.
That's Brent Wills and an incredibly built Commodore. It's all fiberglass and plastic. And
it's actually down to 1 car width. That makes that corner very hard to
Will's father
negotiate.
built this car. He used to have a lot of dirt track experience, and it's a shame for him to be parked across the circuit and out of the race like that.
Well, obviously the crowd are appreciating these big bangers. In our position, we can see the stands. Everyone is on their feet to watch these big grunters. It just shows the level of approval that the V8 sound makes to the crowd and the appeal to the public.
Isn't it amazing? We've got an enormous crowd here and a stand that's full, and the only thing they've stood up for so far has been these.
Trevor Close.
Well, when things are happening, and it has been a busy place, we've got that little escort up on the hill there buried in the bank, and thankfully the driver's all right. But here's this man, Trevor Crow, walking away with this race at this point, although smoke starting to appear from the rear of the little Toyota.
There is incidents everywhere. There's cars parked all around the circuit, from engine blow-ups, gearbox problems, accidents, and so the public today have seen various things to entertain them. And Ian Algie still blowing smoke in 2nd position.
Perhaps on the negative side, we should say about that the Pacific drivers in the 2nd race, the Grand Prix, and the bike riders later on may suffer somewhat because of the oil that's being left around.
There's oil going everywhere, and the Commodore's fire extinguisher that we saw has just gone off, and that car will be covered in extinguisher.
CO2, there's Trevor Crow, no question about the leader, walking away with this race. South Islander, the Christchurch car dealer, Trevor Crow, dominating the race, having an initial battle, first with Ian Algie and secondly with Graham Addis.
Graham Addis has got back into 3rd place now, ahead of Ralph Mossman in the Viva, and 4th place.
Well, Trevor Crow looked as though he might have had some engine problems, blowing a little bit of smoke, but it's still going fine.
Probably just a little bit of oil drippage off the rocket covers, nothing to worry about at all.
Trevor Crow still in the lead on the final lap, taking the win. 2nd should be Ian Algie. Yes, it is, coming through in 2nd place in his 6-litre Alfetta. 3rd should be Graham Addison's Charger, followed by Ralph Mossman, hopefully in his 4th in his Viva. Trevor Crow, a South Islander, very happy. He's came up and he's shown the North Island Sports Sedans what it's all about. It's Oscar built. This car's built to the South Island Oscar rules, which have been around for 10 years. He's done what he wanted to do, come and won a sports sedan race at the Grand Prix meeting at Puke.
It's amazed me how competitive that machine has stayed for the number of years he's been using it, the number of races it's done.
Well, in the South Island, the rules are built differently, and you've got weight advantages through having a little engine, and you can put a big engine in such a little car that his power-to-weight ratio is probably just as good as Ian Algie's Alfetta at any rate. So, and being a very good driver and
I suppose the guys are not going to really appreciate my comments, but I love to see the big grunters. I love to see the horsepower, but quite often these cars, unfortunately, don't seem to be prepared well enough to complete the race distance, at least at racing speed, and that's what disappoints the crowd. Here we have Trevor Crow from the South Island. He's come a long, long way to put this show on, and he comes and races hard from the flag and actually does the job properly. And I think that's what really we all want to see.
Yes.
If these boys can come out in force and give us 10 or 20 of these cars doing this, we get back to those really big crowds that we were looking for in the old days.
Yeah, I can't agree, David Oxon. I think that Group A motor racing will do it. The excitement of having BMWs, Commodores, Falcons, and all the new cars from Europe coming here, and also professional motor racing. These cars, Trevor Crow's won the race, but we've seen a lot of cars fall out with smoke and engine problems and accidents. It's not what we're going to see from Group A motor racing, which is professionalism. And whilst they put on an excellent spectacle and the crowd have been standing, I favour Group A motor racing. But well done, Trevor Crow, for coming from the South Island. Bring your Oscar rules here and fix up the North Island Sports Sedan runners. Well done, Trevor.
There you are, Mans. Vote Reg Cook for president.
Well,
Trevor Crow.
Trevor, just to put that one in order, Tony, obviously there's a band of people out there who do like to see innovative Kiwi mechanics building cars and going fast, and that's that sort of man, Trevor Crow. He's a worker. He's a 39-year-old Christchurch man. We don't hold it against him, but you know, he's built a car that goes fast and he drives it fast and to win. He doesn't purport to be $200,000 better off for buying a flash car, and I hope you do that next year, Reg, because we want to see you out there in these Group A cars and really spending up and doing it well.
And I think the competition will be closer in Group A than what we saw today. Trevor likes winning races, but he doesn't like winning them by 200 yards because in the last couple of laps he's about to have a bit of a rest. Talking to Trevor earlier, he said that he also enjoyed his rallying and he may go back to that. Now this is an interesting car that we see here. This Commodore, it's made out of all fiberglass, and Brent Will's father and himself built this. It took them 14 months to do it, and the fabrication inside that car, there's absolutely nothing except tubes and steel and aluminium. The outside shell is totally molded off panels and is totally fiberglass shell. So whilst that car looks like a Commodore, there is virtually nothing in the car that would resemble the original motor car, and it's a credit to the team that they built it and to the preparation and how good it looks.
So Trevor Crow, the winner of the Sports Sedans race.
South Island hero.
South Island hero comes to the North Island and makes good and has beaten the North Island entries, some of which were competitive, some weren't. The car being pushed away back to the pits now.
Trevor Crow, a very happy man. Ian Algie also very pleased in second position, and third was Graham Addis, which would be one of his best finishes in a sports sedan race at one of these meetings.
Probably one of the better crowds we've seen in recent years at the Grand Prix. Let's hope it doesn't rain. Good stand full of people, and the hill stand's fairly full as well.
And the rain has gone away, which has been very pleasant for the crowd.